I wanted to touch a bit on Spencer Rattler and Heisman odds that have come out because he's in them, and I'm gonna go down this list, or I should say, perhaps up this list, and touch on each one of these prospects that is getting odds from William Hill, which does a really good job of keeping an eye on these sorts of things. So this is Vegas, right? For all intents and purposes. At the bottom of this list of the highest profile candidates is Ian Book at plus 2,800. How do you feel about that, Colin?
I mean, I can see it. I mean, Ian Book isn't exactly my kind of quarterback. I think he's kind of left some things on the table at Notre Dame, but I understand the reasoning.
Mm-hmm. And then Miles Brennan is also getting the same odds as Ian Book.
I would be hesitant, but I also understand it because of the program hype surrounding LSU. The changing and passing game coordinators obviously would stand out to me. But at the same time, if you're taking over the starting quarterback role at LSU and have Jamar Chase on the outside, I understand it.
Okay, so Mac Jones, Travis Etienne, and Chuba Hubbard all at plus 2,200.
Of that group, I would say Etienne and Chuba Hubbard would be my favorites. I think Hubbard, at the end of the day, is the absolute standalone guy. But at the same time, I mean, what did Hubbard finish last year? 4th or 5th? Somewhere close. If he couldn't put up even more statistical ridiculousness than he did a season ago, I still have a hard time believing he'll end up in New York because these days it's nearly impossible for a running back to pull that kind of award off.
And even then, you need to be playing for national championships because, like, J.K. Dobbins goes for 2,000 yards. He can't get invited. Mac Jones, I think, of that group actually has the best shot because Travis Etienne plays with Trevor Lawrence and Justin Ross, but also because Mac Jones is probably going to start the season as the starter at Alabama, and if he's as good as he needs to be for them to win a national championship, he'd be there at the end. I just don't know that he is, though I picked them to win the national championship, but I've also thought that Bryce Young's probably going to be playing in that game. De'Aaron King at plus 2,000.
De'Aaron King in Miami is fascinating. I don't think we talk about it enough because what the heck is about to happen between him and the Canes? I understand that he is an elite dual threat talent, but he's going to have to be able to show to us that he stayed in shape with that long break and that he can still handle the speed of the game. So I would have him on a list. I wouldn't have him towards the top of a list because of some of the other quarterbacks across the country.
Well, Sam Ehlinger just ahead of him at plus 1,800. That one's kind of surprising to me, but nobody wants Sam Ehlinger in this list more than media types.
I mean, anyone is going to benefit from Sam Ehlinger being on any sort of list, right? I mean, he is a conversation hot topic. I would also say, I mean, look, if I had to tell you which quarterback is going to have a better chance to Heisman between De'Aaron King and Sam Ehlinger, I don't think it would be that much of a stretch to say it's Ehlinger at this stage because, I mean, Miami's just frankly been maybe even more disappointing than Texas, and they've also played in a pretty bad conference out in the ACC. So I would put Ehlinger ahead of King. I also see the reasoning, but I mean, still, I'm not putting a whole bunch of stock in it.
Well, Spencer Rattler's getting better odds than Sam Ehlinger and De'Aaron King and Travis Etienne and Ian Book at plus 1,200. Yo, out the box, man.
Dude, hey, how good is Lincoln Riley at his job? Because, I mean, this is all buying into what Mr. Headman can do with this youngster. Look, I know that maybe Rattler benefited from some of those off-season viral videos going around where he's throwing no-look passes and jump throws like Derek Jeter, but we also know very much who his offensive coordinator and leader is going to be, the guy that just put 3 NFL quarterbacks out there in the league. So I'm excited to see him, man. I think he's definitely has a shot to be somewhere in the standing. I don't know how high. I mean, I feel like he could easily sneak into that top 10, but I mean, for him to be, number 4 right now, that to me is just mind-numbing and incredulous when you think about what Riley can do when he has the guy who hasn't even started a game and the guy's already in a conversation for the most prestigious award in college football.
No, I think you also kind of touched on a part of Vegas that I really enjoy is that they pay attention to everything. And lots of these odds are noted on, who could win it, but also what is the public likely to think about this, right? So Rattler having these Patrick Mahomes style throws out here, where he's throwing balls behind the back for 40 yards and he's tossing them 71 yards through the air, and the kind of energy that he possesses. I mean, you could draw a line from him to Patrick Mahomes if you wanted to, right? Before Patrick Mahomes, though, you'd have drawn a line to Baker Mayfield. Just energetic, live arm, understands his function in the offense, understands that, his coordinator is the best in the country, his quarterback coach is the best in the country, and that guy happens to be the head coach as well. Now I'm with you on that. Jamie Newman at plus 1,000, Trevor Lawrence at plus 400, and Justin Fields at plus 350.
I was about to say, I feel like I have a guess of who the rest might be. I mean,
right.
Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields would be the two guys I'm definitely looking at. Newman, to me, is fascinating, and maybe not for the reasons that I would believe he's on this list. I know everyone sees, a quarterback who had a really good statistical season at Wake Forest goes to a program of note in the Georgia Bulldogs. But, are we ever going to acknowledge the fact that the Georgia Bulldogs are prehistoric in offensive schematics? I mean, what the heck are we thinking when it comes to, a high-profile quarterback is now going to be in that system? Will Georgia actually let him throw the ball? I know they've made some changes on that offensive staff. That, to me, will be really telling and determining in terms of how Newman actually contends for the Heisman Trophy. But, they're going to have to let this kid sling it. And they also have a ton of really good running backs on that roster. So I'm fascinated by how Georgia is going to sort through the weapons they have and then utilize it effectively. Because, if we're being honest, given the fact that Newman's now at a major platform and he's the kind of player that he is, yeah, he has a shot. But at the end of the day, Fields and Lawrence, we don't have to go on much here. Those two are the guys at the top, and they'll be battling out as college football goes on.
1 point on store brand Cam Newton, a.k.a. Jamie Newman. Todd Monken is the offensive coordinator, and Monken turned Wes Lunt and Oklahoma State into 550 yards of offense a game. So I don't think that Todd Monken takes the job without going up to Kirby and going, I'm running my offense. And him going, yep, that's exactly what I want you to do. I understand that, you got 5 tailbacks back there that absolutely can do whatever they want with a football. But in this offense, we're going to throw it. We're going to throw it vertically. And I need a quarterback that's going to be able to do that. And I want to do that. And with this offensive line, we ought to be able to do whatever the hell we want. So I'm excited about that because, Monken's coming from Cleveland where Nick Chubb was second leading rusher in all of football. So we know that, yeah, he understands what to do with the tailback, but he also had Baker Mayfield as a quarterback. So, that fits for me. I expect an offensive renaissance at Georgia because if they're still playing murder ball, Todd Monken's probably going to leave. He's not going to get fired. He's just going to quit because that's just not who he is. That guy wants to get vertical with the football.
Hey, I hope that is the situation you're describing, and I hope that if the result is what you're depicting, then he would leave as well because, my goodness, they need to do some sort of turnover with all the weapons they have at Georgia, and I think that Monken is definitely the guy that can pull it off.
Before we get out of here, I do want to touch on one bit of high-profile transfer news. Taulia Tagovailoa announced that he is entering the transfer portal last Friday. And the reason I'm bringing this up now is because now I kind of wrote down a list of potential spots for him to land, and I wanted to run them by you if I could.
Yeah, let's do it.
So the first place is Miami. One, his brother's already there. They're a very close family. They moved to Tuscaloosa as a group, right? He goes to Thompson High School where he turns himself into a 4-star quarterback and, gets an offer and then signed by Nick Saban. He's about 2 inches shorter than his brother, about 5'10", 5'11". Good footwork, not a great arm. I thought looking at him at the opening final in 2018 that I was like, yeah, it's good business to be to his brother right now because he just didn't look like there was a whole lot to him. But then you see him move around in garbage time, and I'm going, okay, I kind of see it. That said, De'Aaron King is definitely gone after this season. And what's your backup plan at Miami? What do you think?
I think that would definitely be a smart move. I think Miami would be very welcoming if they were able to take him. And obviously Miami was one of those programs that was in on Jalen Hurts because of some of the ties that coaching staff has to the University of Alabama. So, hey, look, they hired Rhett Lashley, if I remember correctly, from SMU. Lashley is a guy at offensive coordinator who I am very high on. I think he is a guy who can really get the most out of De'Aaron King, and he would definitely be able to get the most out of the younger Tagovailoa. So I think that would be a really nice fit, and it would definitely help Miami feel a little bit better about their future at the quarterback position.
The other place that I had on the list was USC. I understand that, they got Jack Garcia coming in, and I know what kind of an athlete Keaton Slovis showed himself to be. However, they have West Coast roots. I mean, they're from Hawaii, so I mean that's not even West Coast. 2,500 miles west of the West Coast. And really, Clay Helton has done a great job of welcoming in younger transfers, Chris Steele among them, along with Brew McCoy. Bryce Young was committed. I just thought it was a good landing spot for him and a place for him to develop and perhaps flourish in Graham Harrell's system.
I would agree. I think he went from one coast to the other for a good reason. I would say you don't make that kind of move from where he is now to all the way out there unless you know you can make it work. And, I mean, look, Graham Harrell, that offensive system works. I've seen it in person at North Texas, and I think we've all kind of see it flourish at USC. And having a talent like Tagovailoa, it's only going to help it run even more efficiently. So I think USC would be a nice fit. And I think it also helps a ton that you make that transition knowing that USC has really picked it up on the recruiting trail. I wouldn't maybe be as high on a move like that a couple of years ago because of where the Trojans were at. But now that you can really see USC gaining momentum and bringing in high-profile players again, I mean, who wouldn't want to join the Trojans at this stage? That's a program that, when at its best, it's one of the better in college football. So I think it would be a very nice fit for him if he's able to eventually take over the starting role and then work in Harrell's offense.
One that I thought just made too much sense and just kind of made me giddy when I wrote it down was Ole Miss. Just a hop, skip, and a jump from Tuscaloosa. Playing for an offensive coordinator that knows exactly what that offense was and can do, and helped in the recruitment of one Tua Tagovailoa, and probably is familiar with the Tagovailoas as a group. Ole Miss also just had Jordan Ta'amu come through, who beat out Shea Patterson. Probably beats him out again in Kansas City if we're being fair for the starting job. We know that they'll open up the offense, and I mean, who's going to compete with him right now? Like, John Rice Plumlee is a decent enough quarterback, but I'd even say he's a better baseball player than he is a quarterback, and his value is on the perimeter. It's not necessarily throwing the football.
Yeah, I think right now when you look at Ole Miss, they were able to steal away North Texas' top quarterback commit in Cade Renfro in 2020, but I also am not entirely sure how much they believe that Renfro is going to be their starter of 2, 3, 4 years. So in that respect, I think getting a guy that is a proven commodity in Tagovailoa would be incredibly intriguing. Now, obviously, the in-conference transfer is a whole different sort of hurdle to jump, but if Ole Miss were able to pull it off and they were to convince Tagovailoa to join the program, I think it would very much add some welcome depth to that quarterback room. I mean, Plumlee is a guy they're incredibly high on over there. I would understand why. I mean, he has some solid tools in terms of running and throwing, but I also believe that a little bit of added competition would be very welcoming for the Rebels. So if they can get him, I mean, hey, by all means, I would think it's a nice fit.
Obligatory, he's not going to OU segment. You got one of those?
He is not going to Oklahoma, right. But hey, if he ends up at Maryland like everyone thinks he might, then maybe that's another domino falling everyone wants to hear.
Oh, good God. Oh, man. That is Colin Kennedy. Follow him on Twitter at ckennedy247. That's ckennedy247. I have deleted my Twitter account, and Tua Tagovailoa is going to Auburn because that's a sexier story. Thanks, Colin.
I love it.